We've all been there. Looking at other people's videos, seeing their awesome thumbnails, seeing them filming against these bright, colourful backgrounds and wondering, how do they do it? Like this, where you can see them in front of this nice, bright, vibrant background that I can change the colour of whenever I want to. You can obviously use this for your YouTube thumbnails to create some nice, bright, vibrant images, or you can use it as a set for YouTube videos like I'm doing right now. So, let me show you how I did it. Before we jump into the video, I want to give a huge thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Stream Elements, and their Mercury tool for YouTubers. The Mercury Beta is a suite of tools from Stream Elements to help you create more engagement from your YouTube audience. One of the most unique things about Mercury is that it offers dynamic video descriptions, and yes, it's as cool as it sounds. Dynamic video descriptions update your descriptions for your videos with live metrics, things like shoutouts for your latest subscribers or your members that support you and your channel. You can even add polls to ask questions to your audience, as well as goals like subscriber or membership goals that you want to smash on your channel. Plus, you can make templates for all of these different metrics and update all of your videos, old and new, at the same time. And if you want to maybe thank the people that are subscribed to your channel or have become memberships to support you and what you do, you can do that with the shoutout generator. The shoutout generator will create a video asset that you can update and download and include in your videos to give those shoutouts to all of the people that are supporting you and your channel. If you want to get started for yourself and check out all of the features that Mercury has to offer, then make sure you use the link down below in the description, log in with your YouTube account, and then Mercury will take care of the rest. So go ahead, try it out, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, or if you prefer, I have left a poll in the description of this video that you guys can use, and let me know that way instead. But for now, let's get back to the video. If I told you that that entire intro with the colourful background was done using a $40 RGB light from Amazon, you probably wouldn't believe me. But it was. And in this video I'm going to show you guys how you can do that, as well as some of the creative options you can use for sets for YouTube videos, as well as making colourful backgrounds for thumbnails. And I'm going to set myself the task of making the thumbnail for this video in this video, so you guys are going to probably see the whole process, watch me take the picture, set everything up, and the editing process to get to the final thumbnail. Even I don't know what it looks like right now, so we're going to find out together. But before we jump into that, let's talk about the idea that I have for this thumbnail. And this is something that I highly recommend you guys spend some time figuring out the idea for your title and for your thumbnail before or even during the idea generation process. Coming up with that early on in the process makes the video much more relevant to the title and the thumbnail that you'll be producing, which in turn makes it more clickable. And we all know how much YouTube loves its click-through rates or CTR numbers, as well as the watch time and retention on those videos. So the much more in sync everything is, the much better the video will perform in terms of YouTube metrics. And because the most important part of the video really stems down to the title and the thumbnail, so really getting those things figured out beforehand makes a huge difference. But jumping back to the thumbnail really quickly, one thing I really want to emphasize in this thumbnail is the bright, colourful backgrounds that I'll be focusing on for the entire video. Maybe in the thumbnail pose I'll point to some text or point to an object, maybe I have my head peeking into frame somewhere, taking a couple of shots and seeing where things go, but I really want to emphasize something on screen like some text or an object or even the YouTube logo, just to catch that person's attention that might click on the video. I want to make it playful, but also introduce some curiosity as to what could potentially be in this video based on the contents of the thumbnail. So that's said and done, let's just start moving things around here and get into our thumbnail angle so I can take the image for the thumbnail, as well as show you guys how I set up that colourful background that I used in this video. So here I am, I've moved things around now to take these thumbnail images, and you may be wondering, Sam, why is there no colour behind you? Why are you in front of this dark grey wall? Well, it's actually for one important reason. This particular shade of grey behind me is known as 18% grey or middle grey, and it's used in photography and filmmaking because it's really good at taking light and reflecting it back. Like this. And I'm using those $40 floodlights I mentioned from Amazon. These are actually the old ones that I'm using. They sell newer ones now with more light options, more kind of effects options and things like that, so you can pick those up on Amazon. I've left a link to those down below. And to kind of just peel back the curtain a little bit here and show you guys what exactly I'm doing. You can see I'm just in a small corner of my room. This is the door leading to the hallway of my room, and I have the light kind of propped on a small camping table right behind me, just aimed at the wall. So it's a very interesting setup that I have going on right here. Now, just to point something out there, this is very much a budget guerrilla filmmaking option. These are not video or photography lights whatsoever. These lights have a real problem with flickering, where the power frequency doesn't line up with the shutter speed on the camera, and you'll notice some kind of weird rolling flicker effects that happen when you're trying to shoot video. You can correct this a little bit by playing around with the shutter speed on the camera to find like a middle ground where the intensity of the flicker isn't as bad. However, that does compromise the kind of look you're going to get. For photography, on the hand, it's a little bit easier because you can control the amount of flicker you get, and honestly, you can edit photos a lot easier than you can flicker on video. But if you want an option that doesn't do that kind of flicker and is really solid and is built for video, then I can highly recommend the Godox LC500R. It's a light that I use all the time in my videos. I'm actually using it right now as a hair light. It comes with barn doors, and it has a great bi-color light option on one side and RGB on the other. I've left a link to it down below in the description, along with the $40 floodlights behind me as well, if you guys want to check those out. And I've also put in some other options as well, some other RGB lights that might not be as big or as powerful, but they are super handy to have in your kit. I've linked those down below as well. But for $40, these lights aren't half bad, and you can see the kind of options you have with one light being a different color to the other, create some really nice dynamic and interesting backgrounds. But now it's time to take some images for these thumbnails. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, take some images that I want to use for this thumbnail, and then we'll check them out later on when we're editing them. So here I am at my desk inside of Affinity Photo. As you can see, we have our image. It looks a little dark right now, but that is the raw image out of the camera. I shot this on the A7S Mark III, and I zoomed out just a little bit more and kind of repositioned my lights to kind of get the more accurate look that I was after. We can always remove light stands and remove door frames from images like this. I'm not so much worried about that. The main thing that I'm worried about is making sure that I look well composed in the image and I actually have something to work with. That's my main focus. As long as nothing kind of intersects with what I want to kind of adjust in the frame, I'm okay with it. We can work with it. It isn't an issue. So the first thing we're going to do is brighten this image up. As you can see, it looks a little bit dark. So I'm going to go over to my exposure slider here in the raw controls. I'm going to adjust the exposure roughly to about there. I don't want to go overexpose on my face. I can always adjust the brightness a bit as well to bring that back. And the next thing I want to do is go into the shadows and highlights. I like to kind of bring up the shadows just a little bit, mainly kind of for the darker parts of my face over here, and then bring down some of those highlights to make sure that I'm not blowing out any kind of important information in my facial features and things like that, kind of flattening out the image while also lifting it up at the same time. And then I can always add contrast later on down the line if I want to. So right now, I'm quite happy with this. So I'm going to click develop, and I'm going to go into the main editing page here. The next thing I like to do is kind of a personal preference of mine, is I actually like to create a brand new document that is specific to the thumbnail size and resolution that we'll be using. So I like to go to the file menu and then click on new, and then add a brand new 1920 by 1080p document. You can use 720p as well. Thumbnails are, you know, from 720p up to 1080p. As long as this is a 16 by 9 format, it's okay. I like to create this and then go back to my original image. I like to copy this and leave this as like my backup just in case, and then paste the new one into this new document. So what I'm going to do is just reposition me in the frame here. I'm going to scale it down to get it to where I want it to be. I actually kind of want to move me off to the side just a little bit more and leave just a little bit of space here that we can play around with. And the first thing we're going to do, as you can probably tell, is remove the light stand that you can see here. So what I'm going to do is going to create a brand new layer. So I'm going to go down here to the bottom right hand corner and create a new pixel layer, which is this little button right here. When we do that, we create a new layer, and then I'm going to go over to the toolbar and then select the in-painting brush tool. If you can't see it, if you click and hold, you can then select the in-painting brush tool, or select J, and it will cycle through all the tools right here. So you want the in-painting brush tool, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the top here and then select current layer, and then choose current layer and below. And what that will do is that will essentially look at the layer below the pixel layer and then use those pixels to paint with, essentially. And what the in-painting brush tool is if you use the content aware fill tool in Photoshop, it's essentially that. So if I paint now all the way down and just select that light stand, it will use surrounding pixels to fill in the gaps like that, and it will then remove the light stand. Now what I like to do is I like to select both of these layers, right click, and then choose group, or press Command or Control G on the keyboard, and that there is essentially kind of our fixed layer right there. What I do from there is I like to make a copy. So Command or Control J on the keyboard. And then what I do is I click rasterize and trim. And what that will do is that will then trim everything else that we don't need. As you can see, the image has gotten a lot smaller, and it will basically merge the pixel layer that we had with all of our changes to our light stand and the original background layer and merge them together. So now it's all one image. But once we've done that, the next thing I want to do is actually fill in the rest of the background here. So what I'm going to do is select the rectangular marquee tool on the side on the toolbar, and then I'm going to click and drag out. I'm going to press V on the keyboard, and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag out that selection so it's a little bit past the edge. And as you can see now, we've essentially stretched our background out to meet the edge, and it just fills in that background nicely. Oh, there's a few more tweaks that I want to make to this though, however. I want to select the inpainting brush tool again, and I want to get rid of this kind of dark corner that you see down here. So I'm going to select the pixel layer, and I'm going to just click and drag and just go over this dark background, trying to get as close to my skin as possible without kind of touching it. Otherwise, there'll be some funky stuff happening there. And there we go. That is that image ready to go, kind of background filled in and all sorts. There's the next couple of things that I want to do, and I want to add some contrast back into the image that we took away earlier. So I'm going to go down to the adjustments layers, scroll down, and add a curves adjustment like so, and just play around with the brightness of the image. I'm going to give myself a bit more of a high contrast, high key, or I guess it's low key kind of look. The next thing I want to do is add just a little bit of sharpness and clarity to this image. And what I'm going to do is go into a live filters at the bottom right here. It looks like a little hourglass icon right here. And click on that and scroll down and find what's called a high pass filter. Once I click on that, you may notice it's gone completely gray. Until I take up the radius, you'll notice what's happening here is that kind of the contours of my face, it's almost like adding a clarity or a sharpness filter on Instagram. I'm kind of cranking up that image just a little bit. Add some of those details back in, like in my hair, in my eyes, and in my eyelids and things like that. And if I change to monochrome, it won't affect the colors in those surrounding areas. And I like to prefer to use monochrome, so it's just affecting the intensity of the detail in the image. And now, to fix this kind of gray look that we have, just change the blending mode all the way over to overlay. And you can see if I maybe play around with the intensity just a little bit, you'll see what's happening here. If I toggle it, you see how it looks a bit softer there, sharper. Softer, sharper, softer, sharper. You can kind of see what it does to the image. But to finish this off, what I want to do is send this over to Affinity Designer, because I want to do some arrows, I want to do some text, I want to do those little extras. So I'm going to click on the File menu and then choose Edit in Designer. And then what that will do is that will open Affinity Designer and send my image straight on over for me to work on. And here we are inside Affinity Designer, and you can see it's brought in my layers, my high pass filter, my curves adjustments, everything is there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the text and all the functionality, maybe work on the arrow first. I'm going to click on the pen tool or the pencil tool, and I'm going to create a nice curved arrow pointing up. So I'm going to click and drag and make a nice curved line like that. That's going to be our arrow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clear the fill out by clicking on this little button right here that will clear the fill. And then I'm going to go over to the stroke slider over here. I'm going to increase the width of the stroke. At the end here, you can actually change the end to being an arrow. And if I tweak the offset here, or the place arrow at the end of the line, I click on that, you can see now, it just kind of juts the arrow out just a little bit more. But once you have an arrow or something like that that you really like the look of, the next thing I want to do is add some text to this. So what I want to do is go over to the text tool, and maybe I want to break this up into things, something like make thumbnails like this, and maybe have the text kind of spaced in a nice intricate way down the thumbnail. So I'm going to make a couple of layers. So I'm going to go to make, hold down the Alt or Option key on the keyboard and drag out to make another copy. So maybe we'll go this one, thumbnails, maybe adjust the position just a little bit like that. Make thumbnails like, maybe we just tweak this a little bit. Maybe this is going to be a lot bigger, and then we can bring the arrow up and tweak the kind of angle that we have going for it. I'm really liking where this is going now. So what I'm going to do is maybe play around with the text just a little bit. Maybe add some reds or oranges to the different text like this. Maybe kind of make more of an orange color. Looks pretty nice. Maybe a bit more of like a yellowish color, because yellow and blue are nice complementary colors, because it's like a hot and cold kind of combination you got going on. And it just makes the thumbnail just pop a little bit more, especially the text pops a lot more from the thumbnail as well. Next thing I want to do is select all of these layers and make sure these are underneath my high pass as well. And then what I do is I'm going to group these all together, go down to the effects button down here. I'm going to add a little drop shadow to these. So I'm going to select on outer shadow, increase the radius a lot, and you'll see now it kind of darkens that background, make that text kind of stand just a little bit more from the background. Increase the opacity. Maybe I'll go into the text layers and maybe add a small outline. Maybe make it a black outline like that to make it pop. Or even a white outline. The white outline is pretty nice. That looks pretty nice. That looks sleek. I like that. I like that a lot. So this is probably going to be the final thumbnail. Yeah. I like it. And here is the final thumbnail that I will be using for this video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, and let me know if you guys are going to try this out for yourselves. If you have any ideas you want to kind of mix it up and change for your own thumbnails. And if you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful and want to see more videos like this in the future, then make sure you subscribe to the channel and be sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. It really helps me out and boosts this video in the algorithm. And of course, I will see all of you guys in the next video. Take care. Don't know if you heard that. That's my brother going, ooh!